If your gluten-free peanut butter blossoms always turn out dry and gritty, then I'm going to be the fairy cookie godmother. These have the taste and texture of the old school ones you grew up on, and the trick is simple. I'm gonna show you how. So you'll need half a cup of creamy peanut butter. For this recipe, we're going old school, so I'm using Skippy peanut butter. Jif works as well. You can use natural peanut butter. If you could just use the regular grocery store peanut butter, I feel like that works best. To this, we add 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and the melted butter can still, actually it's preferred if it's still slightly warm. A half a cup of packed light brown sugar, and then 6 tablespoons of granulated sugar. And the reason why we want the butter to be warm is because then it breaks down the sugars a little bit better and makes it blend a little more homogeneously. And then it also helps coat those gluten-free starches so you don't get a gritty texture. To this, we're just gonna add 1 room temp egg, and then a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm just gonna eyeball that with the cap. We're gonna mix that again just to combine. All right, and now we just add in the dry ingredients, which is a half a teaspoon of baking soda, which gives them that chewy texture, and then a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And then to that, we're gonna add 3/4 plus 2 tablespoons of gluten-free flour. And if you're thinking, that's a random amount, it is. Because this recipe was developed off of my old-fashioned peanut butter cookies, and they were so good. I'm like, what else can I do with this recipe? Peanut butter blossoms. So at this point, the dough will be pretty shiny and soft, which is exactly how we want it. We're going to chill it for about an hour before we roll it out, and that is the other super simple trick. When you chill the dough, it gives time for the gluten-free starches to soften and blend with that butter. The butter all coats the starches so you don't end up with that ricey or gritty cookie texture. You may not know this about me, but efficiency is my middle name. So here's the most efficient way to scoop out this dough. So what I use is a small cookie scoop, and I'm just going to scoop out about a level amount and then plop it onto the baking sheet. You could either do unlined, ungreased baking sheet, or I'm using silicone baking mats, or you could use parchment paper as well. So I'm just dividing out all the dough at this point. You don't have to worry about where it's going on the baking sheet, because we're gonna go back and roll them into smooth balls and place them where we want them to bake. So now that our dough is all portioned out, then I'm just gonna go back and roll them into smooth balls. While you're doing all this, then also preheat your oven to 325. Now 325 is a little bit lower of an oven temperature than your traditional peanut butter blossoms would bake at. And I do this because we are making a legit awesome old school version of gluten-free peanut butter blossoms. When you bake these at a lower oven temperature, it just extends the baking time a little bit to kind of meld out the texture, so you don't get that really sticky, chewy texture. You get really something soft, and it just really just replicates like your old-fashioned peanut butter cookies. So I would say you can try it. You can do a 350 oven and a 325 and see which one you like better, but I really recommend 325. All right, and then once your balls are all smooth, then you just roll them in about a half a cup of sugar and place them on your baking sheet now where you're gonna bake them. I do probably about, I would say inch and a half apart. And if you don't want to roll them in sugar, another option, especially if you're making these for Christmas, you can do like some festive sprinkles. Just make sure you read your ingredient labels and make sure there's nothing unsafe in there. So once they're all rolled in sugar, then we're gonna put them in the oven for about 13 to 15 minutes. You just wanna look for the tops and the edges to start to crack, and then you know you're done. As they're baking, this is when you want to unwrap your Hershey Kisses, because as soon as they come out of the oven, you need to plop them on so they start to melt and adhere to the cookie. Now, I love dark chocolate, so I'm doing a dark chocolate Hershey Kiss, but you could do regular. You can even do Rolos or miniature Reese's peanut butter cups. Just make sure you read all your ingredient labels and make sure they're safe for a gluten-free diet. All right, so here's how they look a little bit cracked when they're ready to go. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, this is the fun part that your kids could do. This is what I remember doing. You just put the Hershey Kiss on, slightly press down. It will melt, which kind of makes it glue onto the cookie sheet. As it sits, the chocolate will kind of completely melt. So before you take them off to serve, you want to let them sit for about an hour for the chocolate to melt and then reharden again. If you want to do a little shortcut, you can also let them sit for about 10 minutes, then move the cookies to a plate and pop them in the fridge for about 10 minutes. So once the cookies have completely cooled and the chocolate has hardened, then you're ready to store them. I would store them in an airtight container up to 2 days. I don't really recommend longer than that for gluten-free cookies. They lose their moisture quickly, and then all that work you went into getting soft and chewy cookies, they will end up being dry and crumbly. So if storing longer than that, then I recommend freezing them. I hope you enjoy this old school classic. If there's another recipe that you want me to create, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.